Well, here we are again. It's Monday morning, and it's time for Talking Racine. And the usual suspects are here. I'm going to introduce him first, George.
Huh? Wait a minute.
It's about time.
That was the only thing I had going for me on this program.
Show's producer, Jim Spodek. And George Myers.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah,
I'm still here.
I'm Dr. Ken Yorgan, your host. And we're going to continue with this until they tell us to stop.
Okay, catch up with us.
To find out about it, yeah.
Until they catch up with us, yes. Well, we're going to talk today about the health insurance program change down at City Hall and how it affects the city employees. And I guess kind of specifically it's focused at the police and fire, although there are a lot of people down at City Hall that are going to be affected by it. And it passed by a vote of 8-7 Monday evening. The city council, it doesn't get any closer than that. I mean, there's 15 council members, 8-7, one vote the other way, and it doesn't go through.
It goes the other way.
So that's
right.
it. Yeah. That's as tight as it can be.
Well, I think if they tie, doesn't the mayor make the decision then?
How do you tie when there's 15 people? Somebody's got to be absent.
Somebody could abstain or be absent.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
How did you do in math, anyway?
Today, not good.
Statistics?
Not good.
Never even took the course. I don't blame you. Anyway, it was an 8-7 approval, and there's some interesting things to say about that. Those who voted to approve the changes were Alderman Jeff Coe, Molly Jones, John Tate II, Q.A. Shakur II, Trevor Young, Natalie Taft, Jason Meekma, and Melissa Lemke. Now, so there's 8 that voted for it. Now, if one would have changed their vote, it would not have been approved. And now you would think that there might be somebody with labor sensitivities, labor sympathies in that group of 8. Do you find that there was anyone in there that you kind of would have expected to vote the other way? Jim?
Well, considering we were on the campaign trail together, and I saw Randy Bryce out at numerous events, and he was the champion of labor. He was touted as the labor, the working man. Absolutely, and who ran the campaign was the treasurer for that campaign was John Tate.
The same John Tate that's on the city council?
The same John Tate that just voted to modify the laborers' health care.
Now, is that consistent with his position as a strong labor supporter to vote for these changes that are going to affect working people?
No, it's not. Matter of fact, I got a video.
Ooh.
Do you want to see
a video?
Yeah.
Let's play the video.
Because he's going to be a famous orator someday.
Absolutely.
I can see it coming.
It's right there.
My friend, Randy Bryce, to be elected to Congress, defeating the Speaker of the House. It's what he's done his whole life, whether it was in the Army, as an outreach coordinator for homeless veterans, or as a union leader and labor activist. Randy knows how to bring working people together to get what we deserve. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Racine was recently identified as the 4th worst place in America for black people. I know one of the most significant factors in receiving this dubious title was a loss of good-paying jobs and the weakening of labor and union rights. I also know that Randy is the representative we need to reverse that trend. By seeking common ground with families who are working so much more for so much less, Randy will grow the movement to ensure our minimum wage is a living wage. And all of us have a right to unionize, just like his campaign did. Randy shares common ground with all of us who worry if we were to go broke or bankrupt, if we or someone we love gets sick or injured.
It only would have required one vote. That was a powerful speech there by John Tate, by the way.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
I just want to make one other thing, though. Now, recently, Randy Bryce has started a PAC, and it's called
Iron Stash.
Stash PAC for working class Democrats. And who is also the treasurer for this working class Democrats is John Tate.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I just pointed out that that
the working man's friend. Why is it that working people need friends to run their businesses for them instead of working men?
Yeah,
working women.
I tell you, this is the one. I mean, I got on a serious note. When I saw it, I thought, well, John Tate's going to go with the labor.
Yeah,
completely flipped the can. the other thing that was interesting was that as we went through this campaign, I went back and looked at who supported Randy Bryce from Racine Common Council, and it was Jason Miekma, who now also voted against labor, who supported Randy Bryce, the working man, and John Tate, and of course Corey Mason supported Randy Bryce.
I would expect that they were emotionally torn by having to make that decision.
I guess so.
By having to
it must have been, because
it was one of what they call a difficult decision.
What was more interesting is none of them spoke. Never spoke in the reason why I'm supporting the change in the health care and the benefits. You never heard them speak. And that was kind of interesting to me. It's like, okay, we're going to defend your position, and they couldn't. Because how are you going to do that when it's all the way up to this point, you had been the friend of labor, the union, and then all of a sudden it comes down to where, and I think personally it's a little excessive, those insurance premiums. And we've talked about on the last show that we could have made some cuts in different areas. It should have been looked at a little bit closer as far as having to go in and 3.
Well, there were definitely some other areas to cut, but to do those, it would have meant cutting back on government.
Oh, George.
If you're talking about the health department and the RDA
Hypocrisy.
and some of those things, you could save money there. But I think these people had the choice between their love of government and the workers there. Love of the working man,
right.
and they chose government. That's what I saw in there.
It's pretty
there
hard.
are lots of other places.
Exactly.
Well, and when we say
money.
working man, we definitely include working women too, because I tell you what,
Oh yeah,
a lot of times women work harder than men, depending on the job classification.
Working person.
Working person, yes, working people.
And on that note, let's bring up Council Member Jan Levy.
Jan Levy.
Who spoke and actually voted against the modification of the health care. So if you want to just play, I'll play a little bit.
We heard from Jan. We haven't heard from her hardly at all so far.
Voting no to this healthcare proposal, and I need to state why. When I decided to become an alder, I did so because I believe in the common good. I believe in service to the community, and my values are guided by equity and fairness. But I believe there was nothing fair nor equitable about this proposal and how we got led to this evening's proposal. The process was flawed from the beginning because stakeholders were not part of the process. Just because Act 10 was passed does not mean that city leadership and staff cannot receive input from employees. It's called meet and confer. If this had been done months ago, we may have had a different outcome than what we're being faced with this evening.
That's an interesting comment right there. If this had been done months ago. The problem with this, and also the TID districts, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, or TIF districts.
That's what I was thinking too. Same thing with the TID districts. Go ahead.
But these things are always done with urgency. Now, this has been discussed and planned for months. But they don't reveal to the public that it's going on.
I think that's a real good point, too.
Until less than a month before they're taking a vote.
Right. This goes on for, like you say, months. It could be as long as a year. Some of the plans, when they start accumulating the information and the stories they want to tell and the lies they want to put out there, they have to figure all that stuff out. It takes a long time. But they won't let us know while they're doing it. They'll wait until they got the whole package together.
And then it's got to be done by the end of the month.
Right.
If we don't do it by the end of the month, it's going to take another year.
We stick a deadline on it.
The things they make up and put in there, they don't want to find out. We get into it, start digging into it. We have to find out what's going on, and then it won't go through. So
that's a dangerous thing.
Up and then push
one of the interesting things, she's a new alder person, and what's kind of interesting here is that we've seen it so many times, this routine that we got to hurry up, and we put this together. There's no thought process going in. And she talks about stakeholders. But what happens is she's at least sharp enough on this one. On the TID, she missed it, but on this one, she realizes that this was a setup. And she's going to have to realize that there's more of those. And the more these aldermen start to understand that they're being set up, this is a setup to get the agenda through of the administration or whoever.
Well, and also she's a school teacher.
Yeah.
So she has her own little thing going on over there at Unify. So she really understands better than maybe these others that don't just what kind of an impact this is having on the workers. And so I can see her understanding that. But like you said, there's more than just the working class at stake in some of these things, and we're going to get into the TIDs in a little bit, because there is the taxpayer who may not be a union person, maybe just a property owner, that's trying to pay their taxes, and we have to give the same consideration to everyone if you want to really be, like she says, fair and equitable.
And I think, if they present this stuff honestly, and I think there was an awful lot of deception going on, but if they present this stuff honestly, and people have an opportunity
Deception. What is that? Does that mean like lying?
No. Deception is just when you don't understand. But what I'm saying is, if people are given honest and complete information without all of this basically propaganda that they prop these things up with, and they want to do it, fine. Then that's what's called representative government. But if you have to deceive people and rush the thing through, that's shoddy government. That is
that's.
And that's why we're in the trouble that we're in now economically, because there's just a few people that are coming up with these harebrained ideas, and they're jamming them through, and they're spending money willy-nilly on things that just don't need to be done, and then they come up short and they say, well, we're going to have to take back some of your wages, or take back some of your benefits, your pension's in danger, this, that, and the other thing.
That was another one that went too fast. And you're talking about the Dave Brown thing with making sure that the nurses and the mechanics got paid, and then it turned out the ones that really got the money was with the upper bureaucracy.
Well, Machinery Road. That
and it had to be done right away. That was done that night, presented and passed that night.
By the time the middle of December to the 31st of December, that had to be passed. We got to get that done. We got to borrow that $4.5 million because we're going to have the tax credits are going to go away. Go over and over and over again. So, all right, I'm going to finish her up.
In my discussions with union leaders, as well as employees and the non-represented groups, I have found that they understand the situation the city faces, and many feel that some cuts may be unavoidable, but they were completely cut out of this process. This is really unacceptable.
For her, that's
that's the key. Is the people that are affected need to get involved, be consulted, and they need to be done. The consultation needs to be done early on, not when you've got 3 days left or 6 hours or whatever it is. Get time to study it and research it and find out what's really going on.
Yeah, because there usually are alternatives. You know what I mean?
There are.
When they present something like this.
I got one last question before we move on.
Yeah.
We all heard the rumblings from the union members, from the employees that they're dissatisfied with Mason. They basically put him into office, and I heard the word recall. Do you think they have the wherewithal to do a recall on Mason?
You want my answer?
Yeah.
No.
Well, if they don't, I'd be willing to help.
I don't think they
to make it possible, huh?
I don't think they got the muscle.
I think Patricia Hansen, she's not quite as well entrenched as Corey Mason is. Corey Mason's got a lot of party power behind him. I don't see.
Well, who put that party power behind him?
Well, they were part of it. But I don't think they. I'm just you asked me a question. I answered.
No, I agree with you. I don't think
that's by now.
They talk about it, but I think would come next year or whenever that would happen. I just don't see them doing it.
Yeah, when push comes to shove, most people will just bite the bullet and say, "Okay, I don't like it, but."
Right.
Well, Corey Mason.
But it actually damages some people. I mean, it makes life difficult for some people.
Oh, it absolutely does. But if you're not going to move and be a representative for the people that you told this is where I stand, and then come back and completely do the opposite.
Yeah.
It usually creates a lot more
resentment.
issue. Yeah, it does. And I don't. Maybe Corey's just going to make Bill buddy up again. Who knows? I just don't see the union strong enough to come in and do a recall or put up candidates that
It was really a tough decision. We considered everything, believe me. We looked everywhere we could to find every dime under the sofa cushions, and and we just came up short, and boy, I really hated doing this to you guys, but it's getting done.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on. Topic of discussion is the TIF
Hey,
district.
Doc,
What?
what the heck with that? Why do you orange?
What?
What's the orange there for?
It's not an orange. My doctor told me I can't have oranges. This is a fruit basket increment. It's not an orange.
Oh, sorry. Insult your health. Okay.
Starting to understand.
Nice
where-
fruit basket you got there, Doc.
Yeah, it's an increment.
Increment, yeah, increment of it. Okay.
And it's no increase over the fruit that I had before.
Okay, good. I just want you to be healthy, you know.
Yeah, congratulations, Racine. You now have 2 new TIF districts, courtesy of your city council and your mayor and the administration over there. And magically, there's going to be money appearing. Nobody's taxes are going to go up. This is not a tax increase.
And that
But
is
there'll be more money coming in.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
It's magic.
You know, yeah. This chart we've talked about a couple of programs in a row now, and you know it's sitting right there in the chart.
No, well, who drew that chart?
I think this
The Department of Revenue,
Department
actually.
of Revenue came
Yeah.
from that. Yeah.
That's,
Oh.
yeah.
From the Department of Revenue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, and it's been sitting there, and we haven't mentioned it. But you know, you talk about the big lie. You know, there's no tax increase. Well, let's look at this chart that they're putting out, and if you look across the bottom of it, you see 3 lines there, and they go horizontally across it, and they all stay like little and narrow. There's a yellow one, a gray one, a pink one, and a blue one. And that's the county, the school, the technical college, and the municipality. And that shows how the taxes stay the same all throughout the life of the TID. And above it, you see a gray chart with a line that goes up diagonally. And that's called the value increment. And what the heck is that? Well, folks, that happens to be an increase in taxes.
It's like a fruit basket.
And that, but the part that we really missed, when the TID ends, and if you look down at the bottom, if you look real closely on your screen, it says TID terminated, and it's got a little arrow pointing up, and that's where that triangle ends. And all of a sudden, there are 3 broad bands of yellow, gray, pink, and blue. And guess what those are? Those are the county, school, technical college, and municipality. And they're all bigger. And why are they bigger? Because that's more taxes. So the whole thing is designed to increase taxes, and yet they tell us there's not going to be any tax increase. I find that an amazing contradiction.
It's magic.
Statement. Yeah, it's
What I think
I see how your orange fits into that now. Yeah.
it's not an orange.
and
What I think people should do is keep track of your taxes every year. How much you have to write your check for to the assessor at the end of the year, and how much it is the year after, and the year after that. Keep a record.
And if this TID is as successful as they'd like it to make,
There'll be more money coming in, and you'll be paying less.
People throughout the county will experience a tax increase.
That's right.
This is very, very cleverly done, and it's almost too complicated to describe, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh boy. No, you did a good job with it, but it's you had to tell me a couple of times. The viewers probably only will have to hear it once.
All right. Well, this tax freeze is based on a thing called a tax levy, and in the city of Racine, that's around $54 million. That's the property tax levy, and that is not allowed to increase for any reason except new construction. If you have new construction in the city or in the area, in the taxable area, then you can increase the tax levy by the amount of the tax on that new construction. So if there was $60 million new construction going, like they were talking about for Machinery Row, then 4% of that is about $2 million. They would have been able to increase the tax levy by that $2 million. Well, how does that work for a TID? It gets really, really tricky, and I'm amazed that anybody dreamed this up and put it into law, but here it is. Let's suppose this TID here has an increase in the tax, the new construction in there. And if it's real successful, it would be. And I'm going to use a number that just gives me easy numbers to work with. But I'm going to say, let's suppose it's $10 million worth of new construction into this TID. Well, that's amount, 4%, is about $400,000. And here's where it gets really sneaky. What they will do is they will take that new construction and they put it into the tax base. All right, so now the tax base increased by $400,000. Now, in order to spread it out throughout the district, they first have to take that new construction back out of the formula. So we now have an increase in the tax base that we're not going to apply to that new building like it normally would be. We're going to apply it to everybody throughout the district, which in this case is the county, the school, the technical college, and the municipality. So everybody across the board is going to pay for that $400,000. And then after they assess everybody the new tax, now they put that $400,000 back into the TID, and they figure out the new taxes for the TID, and that stays in the TID.
Mm-hmm.
So this TID makes it so that when new construction occurs inside of a TID, everybody pays for it. If there was no TID, then only the new construction would pay for it. It would all stay right there, and your taxes would not go up. But by pulling it out of the TID, doing the calculation and taxing everybody, and then putting it back into the TID, you get your tax increase. And that's the way it's designed. And that's what you're going to see.
Okay, I got a question then, George. All right, we talk about these loans or these grants they're going to give to homeowners to put a roof on, to put out a new kitchen in addition to the home. How does that play into this? Now, of course, that's how it's sold. It's this great program that's going to increase the home ownership and you're going to create some more activity in the area, which is going to increase the value of the home and stabilize the neighborhoods.
Right.
But by doing that, they were able to get this new construction. Is that what they're going to consider new construction?
Now that's a real good question. To pay off those loans, whatever it is, that's what the new money in the TID will be used for. In other words, that money, the amount across the bottom there, those four little narrow bands there, that money still goes into the general fund. But that new money goes to pay off those bonds. All right? So, but what do they count? To get that money to increase, there's two ways to do it. One is to actually have new construction. The other is a little sneakier, and it's a thing called inflation. Because if the rates go up, and this is amazing, but that's the way it is in the law.
I don't want to get this too technical, but when we did listen to that Common Council meeting, actually the guy that company that put that together, Ehlers, actually talked about, well, it's good that we do it now, possibly ahead of a recession. So let's if there is a recession, we're going to have less inflation, and of course, I got a feeling that that's really what they're counting on is this increase in property and inflation.
We'll take the property values up now.
Right.
The property values will all go up, but the levy stays the same. They do not adjust the levy for inflation. Now that's written in the state law. So when all those values go up, now this gray triangle up there begins to be filled with money.
Right.
And that's...
So by filling that with money, we go out to a construction on a home or whatever, that then creates the tax levy to increase by the new construction. And then that tax levy, then we take that out, distribute it over the rest of the city and county and whatever, and then we take that and put it back in. So we're constantly filling that bowl up, taking that bowl out, and then we need to spread those tax dollars that we need to increase the taxes by the construction that was created. It also increased the homes in other parts of the community.
No, the MacGyver Institute, which is a really good place if you want to see this thing explained, they picked out a community that did exactly that. It was a small community. They had $60 million in increased value, something like a huge amount. But at any rate, everybody's taxes throughout the community doubled because of the construction in the TID district. So everybody was paying that, and then, of course, the money that was in the TID district stayed there at least to help pay it off. And if a TID starts having trouble, then what they do is they have a way to extend their life.
Right.
So if they're having trouble
Okay.
paying off those
Now
bonds,
that you
they
brought
can
that
extend it.
up,
So now,
yeah,
you know, so
let's-
then it really gets really weird.
Okay, now I'm gonna play a video now that talks that Trevor Young talks about the success of these TIDs.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play that. We'll play that, and then you come back and we'll discuss
Yeah.
it.
TIDs have been enormously successful across the state of Wisconsin. According to the Wisconsin League of Municipalities, growth occurs faster in a TID. The rate is faster. The total equalized value of all active TIDs increased by 6.42%, while state equalized value outside of a TID only increased by 2.42%. So this is tangibly providing tools that are going to make a difference in terms of the value of homes. And then if we look at how many TIDs have existed and expired since the year 2000, there have been 447 TIDs across the state since 2000, and now that they've expired, there's $9 billion in new tax base. So that means that you have $9 billion that otherwise wouldn't have been collected had improvements not been made in the state of Wisconsin. And we, in the city of Racine, need to collect on that.
All right, now it's very interesting. For a TID to fail is really hard because they have ways around it. Let's suppose a TID has a value, let's say, of $30 million when it goes in. You know, it starts off with $30 million worth of value. And 5-10 years down the road, it's down to $20 million, $15 million. Well, and that's happened. Some of them have failed. So what is provided in the state statute, you can have a special meeting and you can readjust the base. So where it started off at 30 million, they say, all right, well, we're going to have a new base to start from. It's going to start at 10 million.
So now that
so
maybe looks good.
it's 15. So it's successful.
So what he's saying here is,
Magic.
how could you fail?
Yeah.
How do you fail?
Yeah.
I mean, when you rewrite the rules to fit whatever program you need it to fit.
Yeah.
Am I right there?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So when he talks about this success rate, it's all you rewrote it to be successful.
Right, and we don't know how. Yeah, the whole thing is a bit of a scam. It's a scam.
It is a scam.
It is
Yeah,
a scam, and I can see why California eventually dumped it. I don't know
invented
exactly
it.
why. Yeah, they're the ones that started it, and after a certain period of time, they got rid of it. And I can see the problems that it faces. And if you have this much money floating around, like we've already questioned,
Yeah.
who's deciding where that money in that gray area is going to? What happens to it? How much staff is involved with it? This type of stuff.
They would go to fund the program. You wouldn't be advancing money or borrowing money to fund this program. It would be cash funded as the dollars come into the city.
But someone could change 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road and say we should borrow on this TID because we have this big project we want to fund, correct?
This type of a plan can't bind a future council. I mean, that's would remain within this council and future council's prerogative on how you execute this plan. But, you know, as we've set forth in here, we've indicated the intent clearly is to cash fund this.
It can be just filled with corruption, and we've seen that we are susceptible to that when we look at Machinery Row. So there's nothing clean and squeaky about Racine's record when it comes to dealing with a lot of money.
No, not at all. And they talk about 75% of the money collected on the TID is available for improvements of private homes, et cetera, et cetera. It's available for that. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to go to that, because there's somebody sitting at a table deciding where that money goes, and it's not required that it goes to that.
So who's going to
It
monitor
could
that?
go-
And the record keeping is
it
very,
could-
very loose. Yeah,
It
that's
could
the
cross
thing.
TID boundaries and go into a different district.
Well, the MacGyver Institute points it out too. All this stuff is done outside of the budget process.
Exactly.
This is not part of the budget process, where you've got facts and figures that go in front of the aldermen each year to at least look at the facts and figures. No, this is all outside of that, and it's very poorly monitored. So that's another problem that they have with these TID districts.
Yeah. Well, they're
They're dangerous. They're
I
not good
think
things.
so.
And Doc, I'm really worried about you and this orange.
I'd say
If this is anything like
it's
a
not
TID
an
district,
orange.
you could be in trouble.
I got one last thing before we close it up, though. On the last Common Council meeting, at the end of the meeting, they actually hired a contracted individual named Jerry Franke. Now, Jerry Franke, and this would be for the development department where Amy Connolly had just left. They brought in as a
Well, it's the RDA, right?
No,
No?
it's the, where Amy was. She was the head of the
Head of development, city development.
city development.
Yeah.
So they brought in a guy named Jerry Franke. Now, if you remember, Jerry Franke was with We Energies or Wispark, and he developed a lot of stuff. Very sharp, very good developer, understands it. I think it was an excellent move. I mean, and in this one, I believe Q.A. Shakur and Sandy Widener commended the mayor on the appointment of Jerry Franke, and I also feel it's a good idea. My personal feelings are that something behind the scenes went on, because to bring in Jerry Franke is going to be I think a great move, but I don't see it blending well with the administration. We'll see how it goes, but I think
Is he going to be
I
a city
agree with you on
employee,
that,
did
yeah.
you say? Or is
No,
he,
he's gonna be contracted.
He's contracting out. That's very, very unusual.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing to me. I like the idea. And it's all up to Jerry Franke. Who he is, what he's going to do with it. I mean, we have seen it over at Car 25. When Scott Nelson was in charge, it was a vibrant operating thing, and once it got in, it became political. It just went to pot. So individuals make the difference.
Yeah,
And if
they do.
Jerry Franke is as good as you and some other people seem to say, that will be much more successfully handled. But it's all going to be.
Yep.
What we were talking about today, we're done with. That's it. Goodbye. Thanks for being here. We love you.